outweighs a nuclear war between India and Pakistan. The time frame is much faster due to the fact that there are many urban areas, people can travel everywhere, and will spread exponentially. Also, its magnitude outweighs since it affects everyone, not just the Indo-Pak region. Also, that nuclear war is not plausible since conflict has existed for a long time and it hasn't happened yet. Even a 1% risk that bioterror can happen means you have to vote on it. Okay, 2AC1, 215 once temporarily ended. Okay, that's true, but you can't use this argument because this card is in the context of only a couple days, 3 actually, and because of that, you can't use that to predict the future where it permanently won't exist. And also, in those 3 days, the surveillance that was happening before was still allowed, which means that they didn't stop using provisions from 215, which means you can't use this argument. 2AC2, U.S. is losing the war on terror. It's not about winning or losing. In absolute terms, the U.S. is doing well and far better than if softer intel approaches like plan were used. Then include 15. An exchange press whether the U.S. is winning the war on terror. If I look across the board in 9/11 and if the U.S.'s intelligence were not as engaged against the terrorists, I think we would be facing a horrendous environment. They would have taken full advantage of the opportunities. To summarize, the war on terrorism is working compared to inaction or other policies. Also, extend a Brute 13 card that talks about how there are specific terror attacks that the United States have stopped against the homeland, which is 50. It talks about that it stopped, and so it's basically saying that any less surveillance is worse than what we're doing right now. 2AC3, radical or Arab American co-op is necessary. Cross-applies some of the arguments for the bigotry flow, where the plan doesn't actually solve the racist mindset of the NSA. They're just limiting the tools that they can use, but the mindset is still there where it's racist, so they'll continue to be racist toward the Arab American communities, and that will hurt relations. Also, extend the Lewis 2 and 13 card, where it talks about how doing the plan makes us more susceptible to terrorist attacks, and terrorist attacks will lead to a more surveilled state, and because of that, that will lead to more racism. Also, they dropped their Ongram 2 card that talks about how when there's a terrorist attacks translate to racism towards Arab and Muslims, and so that's why cooperation will always hurt. So that we have to start at the status quo as a point where we can make sure nothing will get any worse and work from relations right there, not past the plan, because that will make things even worse than they already are. And then moving on to 2AC4, no link, that's not true. Or group 2AC4 and 2AC5 together, it's not true. Bulk collection is faster. Because we are able to gather big sections of data, we can catch terrorists that we don't know about, because targeted warrants requires us to know who the terrorists are, and that's not likely because terrorists don't come up to us and just tell us that they are terrorists. We have to look for them, which only metadata allows. And yes, metadata checks specific terror attacks. It also exposes broader terror cells. Shia 14, the value of metadata is not hypothetical. An illustration is the case of 9/11 hijacker Al-Madar metadata addresses the information gap that existed at the time of the Al-Madar case. The NSA can use metadata along with other data to quickly identify the larger network with the goal of preventing future attacks. And on to 2AC 7 or 6. Bioterrorists can't make a virus. That's not true. There's things called backyard biologists who tinker around with organic material themselves, biological material themselves, and then put their recipes, like how they change things, on the internet, so bioterrorists can learn through those means. Also, those backyard biologists sell their products on the internet, so increasingly easy to obtain the necessary compounds for life. And the Hilla 13 card only says it's most likely that it won't happen, and even it doubts that there's a possibility for bioterror. And groups like ISIS, where they're expanding, there's no reason not to believe that they could force the scientists in areas that they conquered to work for them. It doesn't explore these possibilities, so you can't use this card. You have to default to our Marival 13 evidence, which talks about how terrorists can and will try to get bioweapons, and how only metadata is what is necessary to prevent these attacks. And 2AC8 can't really deploy. That's not true. I mean, anthrax have been sent to people before. Terrorists have gone to train stations and dropped vials of viruses just down, drop them onto train tracks, infecting people. There's been suicide bioterrorists where they infect themselves and go try to infect other people, and because of those, it's plausible they can deploy those viral weapons, and there's no reason to believe why they can't.